preseason hockey has been at a level I don't think I've ever seen it. Grant's coming into us live today, not from Columbus, Ohio, but on the West Coast with me, kind of. Phoenix, Arizona, close enough. Grant, how's Phoenix?
I'm in the desert. My Midwestern upbringing has led me to the desert hills, and every time I walk outside, it feels like I'm opening up my oven and pulling out delicious chicken parm, and my face is just blasted with heat. It's been an adjustment, but I'm enjoying time here. I'm here for work, so haven't gotten the opportunity to explore too much. But what I've seen has been nice, and I got my eyes out for any Coyotes gear. My lovely girlfriend, as I was leaving, she's like, "If you see any Coyotes gear, like you should honestly but pick up as much as you can, because that's going to be cool to have." So I don't know. Maybe there'll be time in the next couple of days for something like that. But yeah, I was like Trent on the edge of my seat watching both Alabama, Georgia, watched a little bit of the Colorado Buffs earlier in the day. Then I had my eyes on the Jackets preseason game against Buffalo. And you're right, Trent. I feels like the hockey community as a whole, I don't know if it's because I'm paying more attention to stuff because we're doing this show, but I just feel like more and more people are like watching preseason hockey and having fun with it, and kind of just getting into the absurdity of seeing, your team's, top money stars playing along with guys just hoping to get on the AHL roster. And you're not what that brings. And then like the guy in net, is going to be in juniors this year or something like that.
You're not wrong at all. Even outside of this show, I've never defined the preseason of the NHL as electric, and it has been nothing short of electric.
I think I said it a couple shows ago, and it still stands. If you live, if you go to games, go to a preseason game and spend a little extra money, maybe sit a little close to the ice or sit at a different area of your arena. That's a little hack that I've been known to employ. And it's fun. It's fun to go to the games before the games. You get back in the swing of things.
And do it while it's still feasible, because as you can tell, these preseason games are starting to sell out. I mean, the NHL is exploding. We're seeing packed barns on national television, watching, what should be, people's rookies going at it. But instead, it feels like a full-fledged regular season game. It's unbelievable. I've never seen NHL like this. Grant, I've got to confirm a rumor really quick. So, folks, if you missed last episode, you now know Grant's going to be referred to occasionally as Dr. Miller on the show. I know you said you're in Phoenix for work. I saw a rumor on Twitter this morning that you're actually there as a part of the expansion project, and you may have a lot to do with the Coyotes coming back to Arizona. Is that true?
I can't confirm or deny that. That would be, all jokes aside, that would be like my dream. Sports consultant, market research, something like that. No, that would be cool. But I think we're a couple years from that occurring. We got to get new ownership here. We got to get a feasible stadium plan.
Yeah,
because it's so huge here. I was looking at places to go, and like I was totally looking like, oh, where did they play? And like, it's one thing to look at a map, but it's another thing to like be here and try to like plan a excursion, trying to get someplace. I will say I think the Tempe idea has some legs to it, because that's not terribly far from downtown. But also, like, I don't know if Phoenix is this place where a lot of people live downtown. I don't know.
Grant,
I'm still figuring this out.
Maybe after the show takes off for the next years to come, maybe we go in on an investment together with the new Coyotes team.
What a dream.
What a dream. I hope I get to that point in my life. Your girlfriend made a great point about, picking up some Coyotes branding. My wife has always recognized outside the Avs as the Coyotes gear is to be one of the cooler gear in the league. It's a great logo. And those like old school desert jerseys were
kind of ahead of their time.
They were.
Because I remember when they shifted to more of like the kind of red clay, kind of howling coyote. Like, I liked that too. Full disclosure, I have like family that lives out here. So I would get like, I had like a Coyotes hat growing up and like a Phoenix Coyotes sweater because I knew I liked hockey. And that branding was sharp too. And then they went back to more of the desert look. I know there's a name for that type of logo as like nostalgia kind of picked up, but I don't think the branding was their problem.
No, not at all.
Some teams that might be the case. I don't think that was the case out here.
You mentioned
that stuff
Tempe.
is timeless.
I think Tempe does have legs. The previous issue with Tempe was a lot of soured relationships between the political figures of the city of Tempe and Arizona Coyotes management. But now that it's going to be a completely new face, maybe they can start, with a clean slate. So
it's all relationship building and how you represent yourself, how you represent the sport to the stakeholders and kind of power players. I think it's very clear, it's something we've talked about on the show, that the current or people that end up losing the stakes weren't exactly carrying themselves in the best way and representing their project to the people that matter here. And you're right, each little kind of area here in Phoenix has their own autonomy. We see that with like spring training baseball, which is huge here. Like these kind of suburbs of the greater Phoenix area, they take a lot of pride in kind of what they can leverage. And that's, for a place like Glendale, they have the big NFL stadium and the kind of entertainment district out there. And the Coyotes ownership specifically were not being, great stewards of that area. They weren't being like, a team player in regards to their side of being a part of that space. So, I don't know, man. It's crazy.
It's a shame at this point. Weirdly, it just makes sense to me, hockey being in the desert, and I'm really looking forward to that coming back. Although, while we just talked about expansion, that basically assumes that there's going to be 34 teams at that point. So,
what hockey means to the people that like pay the tickets and watch TV like changes a lot. I mean, when we were growing up, it was like Canada, the original six, and like places like Buffalo, or like kind of Rust Belt, grit, cheap beer, fights, sort of thing. And like that, there's some beauty in that, but also what we've seen as we've gotten older is younger kind of, I would say like the college crowd getting super into this. And Trent, I don't know if you know this, ASU, one of the largest universities in the country. And I'm not saying you fill the arena up with just, drunk college students, but you get a couple of those people in, and then when they decide to stay out here, which is very common, that's why Phoenix is as big as it is. It's the surface of Mars. You have a clientele, you have a base of people that are going to associate their 20s and 30s with your product, which is commercially very valuable. So, for whatever reason, that didn't take root, and it's not easy to do, but also just the demographics and who's into the sport have evolved and changed. And it just felt like maybe the Coyotes just weren't taking advantage of that evolution.
That college hockey piece with Arizona State, they played a home and home back-to-back years with the DU Pioneers. And it started with their first year in college hockey, and the Pio scheduled them. And I was in Denver at that game for when Arizona State played. It's really cool to see. And since then, that program has gotten better and better and better. I remember at the time they were kind of the joke of college hockey. Not anymore.
No, they've lived up to it. They've put their money where their mouth is, and the product's, really, really good on the ice, and they're legit now.
Yeah. So it should be fun to see. You talked about representing your brand. I say we kick that off this morning, Grant, with some good stock tips. Before we get to the stock market, these are sponsored by Roseville Skate Town, Northern California's premier home for men's league hockey at all levels. Sign up today and receive a complimentary skate sharpening for your men's league endeavors. Go score that goal. And just update from the Silver Division at Roseville Skate Town. We did win Friday night 4-2. Good game. Played well.
That's fairly low for beer league, right?
It is low. You could say it's really good defense. You could say it's a lack of offense. I don't know however you want to look at it. Okay. Stock market, Grant. The stock I'm buying this week is the Vancouver Canucks goalie depth chart. They clearly saw an issue with the goalie injuries that they took this last playoff go around. Thatcher Demko went out. Artur Shilov came in heroic fashion. He was kind of the third string goalie that, the backup situation there was a big question mark. They now have Thatcher Demko healthy, Artur Shilov signed to a contract, and just signed Kevin Lankanen, previous backup goaltender with the Nashville Predators. Also a very stout, I guess he's the third string, but can clearly fill in and step up. He had a .908 save percentage last year in 24 games with the Preds. I mean, top to bottom here, they've got three answers. And so that's why I'm buying stock in the Vancouver Canucks goalie depth chart. They're good to go. That's not going to be a problem this season.
Do you think, if you have three, maybe, I don't know. No, that's a good pick. I'm not gonna poke holes in that. That was solid.
So, stock that I'm selling is the Pittsburgh. You'll appreciate this. Pittsburgh Penguins transportation department. Grant, I don't know if you're tracking.
Excuse me?
Yep, you heard me correct. The Pittsburgh Penguins transportation department. Yesterday, they had to cancel their game in Detroit against the Detroit Red Wings because they did not have the foresight or the wherewithal to apply correct maintenance to the Penguins aircraft. And because they were so late on decision making, could not coordinate a bus in time to get the team from Pittsburgh to Detroit. Because of that, they canceled their preseason game while the poor Red Wings were warming up at Little Caesars Arena with fans showing up to the game who had bought tickets.
The beauties of preseason hockey. We just talked about how great preseason hockey is.
And then you got the Penguins transportation department just dropping the ball.
That seems un-Penguins like.
I know.
I will say that's behavior I would expect from like the Wild or something. I don't know.
Like the previous Coyotes regime, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, how much money? I know it's preseason, but still, you got people you got a lot of money invested in these games, and you didn't plan ahead. You didn't.
You got to get this figured out in the preseason. You don't want an issue like this raising its head in early December or something like that. And aircrafts are very specialized. There's only a handful of people in each kind of city that probably knows the ins and outs of every aircraft, and you don't want to risk it.
It sounded like they weren't super prepared, and because they caught this issue with their aircraft late. It was too late to coordinate for a bus. It was too late to get to Detroit on time, thus canceling the game. It's a pretty embarrassing blemish on the organization. And if I'm Detroit, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, yeah. But again, like I said, it's preseason. The bus thing is very funny because like Pittsburgh to Detroit probably isn't that long of a bus ride, but it's probably longer than any one of the pros. Any one of those guys would be willing, not willing, but imagine you're like, okay, guys, we can't fly, but we have to play this game. We're going to delay the game by a few hours, and it's going to take us 8 hours to get there. Columbus to Detroit is 3 hours, and then Columbus to Pittsburgh is about 2.5. I imagine they would go through Cleveland, though. It's a long drive. Well, doable, but it'd be long.
Grant, speaking of all methods of transportation, we are coming up on Thanksgiving. What a classic movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. We've talked about planes. We've talked about automobiles. Let's talk about trains. Let's jump on the Transaction Train Station. If you're new with us, it's also we had some new listeners in Ireland and Estonia this past week. Welcome aboard. This is our segment where we talk about all the transactions that have occurred since our last episode. So Transaction Train Station, we just talked about Kevin Lankanen coming over from Nashville. He's now in Vancouver, signs a 1-year, $875,000 deal. Again, for a guy who played 24 games last season, had a .908 save percentage. This is your third string goalie. That is great insurance in the crease. Very happy with this. Logan O'Connor signs a 6-year deal with the Colorado Avalanche for $2.5 million. Grant, this one hits close to my heart. 25 points in 57 games. 3 of those goals last year were shorthanded goals. He's got this weird skill set where he thrives on the penalty kill and is able to generate offense. I don't know how to describe it. It just kind of magically happens. This is a guy I saw play for years with the DU program, undrafted, picked up on a professional tryout years back, made the team, and now is a staple. And is one of those guys who traditionally will be on your third or fourth line, but will randomly provide second line scoring efforts, which is great to see for a guy making $2.5 million. So love to see this. Also, his even strength goals for. So essentially, how often you're on the ice for a goal for versus goals against is 60%, which I don't expect anyone to be super familiar with this algorithm. That essentially means he's on the ice for much more offense than he is goals against. Very good player. Very happy with this deal.
Okay, that's good. That was a good breakdown.
Yeah. And then Cole Perfetti out of Winnipeg signs a 2-year deal, $3.25 million. He's 24. He had 38 points in 71 games last season. The Jets are a team that will need a guy like Perfetti to step up. Good news is he's going to have a big opportunity to do so. So we'll see how that breaks down with that awesome Canadian fan base that we love to discuss.
The fine folks of Winnipeg.
The fine folks of Winnipeg. I love that we have like kind of branding names with different, we got the Caniacs, we've got the fifth line in Columbus, and we have the fine folks of Winnipeg. So if we talk about your team in that way, just know that we enjoy your presence. All right. Our next segment here, Grant, any note on these transactions, or are you good?
No, I'm good. You covered them better than I ever could.
I appreciate you, Dr. Miller. Okay, housekeeping. Opening game this season is on October 5th. That is quickly approaching.
Hold on, wait 1 second. That's next Saturday.
It is next Saturday, Grant. The opening game is October 5th. It will be in Prague, in the Czech Republic.
Hold on, let me stop right there. They don't like to be called that anymore. They like to be called Czechia. That's in Czechia.
Okay.
No, keep this in. This is good. I learned this summer
Czechia.
Watching the Euros.
Czechia, well, formerly known as the Czech Republic, formerly known as Czechoslovakia, for those who haven't been keeping up the last couple decades.
You got to update your globe from the Cold War era.
Exactly. Eastern Bloc countries, there's always some kind of division going on, it seems like. Sabres will be playing the Devils on October 5th in Prague. The weird thing here is the preseason is not over on October 5th. So while that's game one of the regular season, there's also a full slate of preseason games that same day. Then they're going to turn around, play on October 6th, also another slate of preseason games that same day. So we're going to have game 1 and 2 of the NHL in the books with preseason still going. I get it. Logistically, probably difficult to negotiate with the city of Prague and how to schedule this. But what are your thoughts here?
So baseball has done this for like 10 years where they've like started the season in like Australia randomly in like the middle of March. And it's like, games like the Oakland A's, shout out to the Oakland A's, we're playing in like Australia, or a team's playing in like Japan or Korea 2 weeks before everyone else does. So as a baseball fan, I'm semi aware of this. I think the Jackets played in not a season opener, but these sort of like international kind of barnstorming events. I'm not sure what to call them, but I think they're pretty cool. I think it's a good thing. It's a thing that the NHL does. It has started to do that. I think is positive. And if you're a fan of these teams, I think it's a little weird, to be like this early in a game that matters. And like, what happens if near the end, like what if you lose this game and then you're like near the end of the season, you're like 2 or 3 points out of the playoffs. And it's like, well, that weird game in Prague that just didn't go well. Like it's easy. It kind of gives you a built-in excuse. I don't know.
Well, for what it's worth, I have heard that the Eastern Bloc countries are great places to visit to get the most bang for your buck. So
I've heard that as well. I know that's like a popular destination for like young British dudes. You can crush a lot of beer for like $2.
Hey, folks, this is why Dr. Miller brings such a great perspective. He randomly knows just things like that.
I have
off the cuff.
The internet algorithm sends me a lot of interesting stuff because of my sporting interest.
Okay, G, I've got quite an update for the goaltender drama across the league. You ready?
Let's get into it.
All right, we'll start in Vegas. So formerly we discussed the situation that we still have zero transparency on, the Robin Leonard didn't show up for camp. Is he medically cleared? Is he not? Was the team aware of this? Were they not? Is this a ploy to get out of paying him $4 million? Or is this lack of personal accountability on Leonard's part? We have no idea. We do have a bit of insight, though. So as of yesterday, Robin Lehner had his assets frozen after allegations of spending $1.5 million on gambling, vacation, and luxury purchases following his bankruptcy filings. Is this related to the current situation between him and the Golden Knights? Unsure. Still, no transparency provided, but this is another blemish on a situation that already is kind of frustrating, probably as a fan for the Golden Knights. So we'll see certainly how this situation develops and if he's even on the team, if he gets paid, if the Knights have to count him against the cap. We don't know. So
yeah, I know. I'll just reiterate what I said last week. I hope everything's like okay in his life. Filing bankruptcy, probably never a good thing, but also not like a life ruiner either. You start getting to, it's not uncommon for athletes to have to go down this route. And I'm not saying it's like a positive thing. Not trying to put a positive spin on this, but also like considering the issues and kind of battles Robin Lehner's like fought internally for a lot of years. That's like this. I think you never want to hear stuff like this, really. And I'm sure, but it also isn't like none of my business, really. And I don't think this would affect how he plays to an extent. But he hasn't been on the ice in 2 years. I don't know if we're going to see him on the ice because of this whole Vegas deal.
Yeah.
That's all confounding.
Yeah.
I would also like to know the breakdown between like gambling and because if you just spend like $500,000 on vacation and then, maybe $10,000 on gambling, I don't know. That headline's a bit egregious. I'm kind of joking. It's not my business, but like to include all of that as one huge bad thing and like, okay.
Yeah, folks, don't forget here, the other glaring puzzle piece in this situation is the Vegas Golden Knights are currently almost $4 million negative on the cap, and they have to figure that out by next week. So certainly some news is going to break in the coming week before our next episode. So we'll see how that all displays itself. All right, let's go over.
Awaiting.
Yeah, let's go over to Boston from Pierre LeBrun. I got a Jeremy Swayman update for you. So the Bruins originally offered him $6 million. Swayman wants between 9 and 10. So there's the negative. They are clearly far apart on a number. The positive,
it's a big number there.
It is. The positive is both sides want a long deal, talking 8 years, max term. They have now set a new internal deadline, Don Sweeney has, to get this done by the season opener against the Florida Panthers. So last week we were very concerned about the quotes concerning December 1st, the last day to sign a restricted free agent, or he can't play all year. Why even mention that date? We were very concerned. So this is good. This is overall, while the number is far apart, this is maybe starting to come together a little bit, and they're starting to expedite. How it got to this point and that so late before the season started, I have no idea. I felt like this should have been a priority on July 1, but who am I? I'm just looking from the outside.
Yeah, so there's a couple things I want to get into this. Not totally uncommon for there to be like a gap of communication between organization and players, especially with like RFAs. But you're right. Swayman's such an important part of what the Bruins are doing that you think that'd be prioritized. The Bruins, we've talked very highly of them as an organization since we started this show, but like they've always kind of done a good job of like roster management, staying competitive, making sure that there's no like gaps and kind of how they're building. They've always been very competitive. So, if there's an organization that you can look at and say like, give them the benefit of the doubt, Bruins got to be like up there. Do you remember when William Nylander held out with the Leafs? I would say, was this back like 6 years ago?
Of course.
Okay. His agent, I'm sure I double check on this. I'm like 99% sure this is true. Same agent with Swayman. So the people representing Swayman have a history of playing hardball. And to Swayman's credit, get all the money you can. I'm usually always going to be on the player side of these sort of deals, and he knows he absolutely knows what he's worth, and he's got an opportunity to make a lot of money here.
I don't mind a player knowing their worth and getting that done as long as it doesn't start to infect itself into the start of the season. I saw this play out with Ryan O'Reilly and the Colorado Avalanche, and it can be so divergent and drive a wedge and become a problem in the locker room when the season begins, and this is still not resolved. So I want to see this done this week, and just for the sake of the locker room, let alone how good he is as a goaltender. Right now, their starting goaltender is going to be Jonas Korpisalo. They're going to want a better answer in Jeremy Swayman in net if they're serious about making the playoffs in the Atlantic. So
the Bruins have this sort of, organization's bigger than any one player sort of kind of ethos.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all.
I don't either, and it translates to how they play too. I mean, it's strong team defense. It's good kind of sturdiness up the middle. We've seen it for 10 years. So that is also in play here in terms of, I think there's probably some people within. Oh, the Carolina Panthers just ran a fake punt, and it did not go well. Sorry. I think there's some people definitely within the Bruins organization that kind of thinks that the success that they've had can be replicated with, whoever in net.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know. I'm skeptical of that.
Hopefully this gets done this week. Let's drive a little farther south from Boston. Let's go to New York. Grant, goaltender drama is relevant. It's prevalent. I don't know what is going on. Igor Shesterkin, one of the best. Hot shot starting goaltender, arguably the best goalie in the league, asking price of $12 million, and has gone on record, according to the New York Post, saying he will not entertain contract talks after the season begins. AKA, the Rangers have a week to lock this guy up long-term for $12 million, apparently, or they're going to have to wait until free agency after this season, which notably, the Rangers are probably making the playoffs. They're probably going to have a deeper run. So they're going to be putting themselves between a rock and a hard place in extending their longtime blue chip goaltender here. Let me ask you a few questions here.
Yeah.
$12 million. Is that worth it? One. Two, does Shesterkin own? Is it? What's the word? Do you think they value keeping this guy long term, or is that going to put them in a terrible situation as a franchise? And then finally, what is going on with goaltenders right now in valuing themselves? Is it because the cap is going up?
Yes, the cap's going up. Their value and kind of the way the game is played, and the recent trend of basically like you have to have like a hot goalie to. It's kind of a cheat code, man. It's like having just a really good quarterback. It's not an exact analogy, but like these guys know their leverage. They have more leverage than most other guys on the ice. So do I think the Rangers will value him long term? I don't know. I think he is more important to their success than, say, a Swayman in Boston. Like, I think what the Rangers are able to do is very much correlated to Igor Shesterkin. And I kind of butchered his name a little bit there, but $12 million is a lot. I mean, for context, like what Bob makes like $10 million in Florida. And I remember that being just a huge price tag, but they won a cup. And I remember I was kind of in a similar situation with this in Columbus, where it was like, he'd got 1 year. He knew he had his number. Front office here in Columbus wasn't going to pay him. He played an entire year as a pending free agent, and everyone knew he was gone. Maybe that's what happened in New York City, and you just get somebody else to pay him that much money. But yeah, these guys know what their shelf life is, I guess.
Yeah, it's $12 million for a goaltender. That's one of those. I think there's more of a chance of that not working out than it being.
It takes one cup. I mean, you win the cup one time, and you're like, okay, well, like the ROI. I mean, I don't even know if you say like then it's worth it, but you can at least point to something.
But we talked in the Rangers preview not too long ago, Grant. We talked about this roster. Yeah, they can certainly win the cup this year or next year. After that, you're looking at, well into the back nine of their core forwards.
Yeah. So maybe that's more of an incentive not to bring them back, because you're like, dude, the window's short anyway, and 12 million to your goalie isn't going to help you rebuild.
Yeah.
Like maybe you put all the chips on the table for like this year.
If I was a betting man, the Boston situation resolves itself this week. New York situation does not, and that will be some drama we'll have to track for the rest of the season. Okay, let's go over to Philly. A little bit of drama out of there. Grant, you texted me this week. The NHL Players Association files a grievance on behalf of Ryan Johansson regarding the Flyers terminating his contract. So, history lesson here. He was traded to the Flyers from the Colorado Avalanche, played in a game with the Avs the day before he was traded, got to Philly, basically, quote unquote, revealed an injury, claimed that he was injured as the Flyers put him on waivers and into their minor league system. He did not report to the minor league team. Was that a personal choice? Is he actually injured? We don't know. A lot of people are claiming he's making that up. We have no idea. But since he did play for the Avs the day prior, it is highly suspect. Now, this offseason, he has not reported to the minor league team, which is where the Flyers placed him. Also note that his history with John Tortorella has been pretty volatile. They have not gotten along. Didn't report to Flyers camp with the minor league team. They since terminated his contract, which now leads us to this. So I don't know if, maybe he's making things up. Maybe he's not. I don't know. Doesn't seem like a good situation. And I don't know if he plays in the NHL again, frankly.
I'm kind of surprised at the union. Maybe it's like a precedent thing where they just feel like they have to do this to kind of protect their guys and their membership. But you don't think you go down this path if you don't have reasonable proof of injury and just mismanagement by the Flyers. So maybe there's more here. Maybe it is as simple as just Ryan just doesn't want to be in Philly.
I don't know. Since he didn't report and there doesn't seem to be any transparency around this injury, I don't know how you defend this. Again, there's got to be some other detail that maybe we're not privy to.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Is like maybe there is like something that we don't understand, that maybe there's like I don't know. Maybe there's more to this that we just don't know that the union does, that it won't really come out directly, but can help resolve the situation.
True. All right, Grant, we talked about the intensity of the preseason. I've got a slew of injuries that are going to take a serious toll on some teams that are going to be fighting for a playoff spot. So out of the gate, John Gibson, not preseason related, he's out 3 to 6 weeks after an emergency appendectomy. We're going to be talking about the Ducks. Their starting goaltender situation certainly takes a hit there, but quite an opportunity for up-and-coming, was a backup, now will be the starter for at least the start of the season, Lucas Dostal. I don't know if I pronounced that right.
I think you got the second one right.
He has got all the makings of a starting goaltender in this league. This is definitely an opportunity for him to show his worth. So this isn't a
appendectomy. That's your appendix, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever had to have that done?
No, thank God.
Yeah, I haven't either.
So this is a situation where it could be much more dire and maybe like Boston's situation, right? Maybe you don't trust Jonas Korpisalo taking the reins for the bulk of the starts. But in this situation, yeah, Gibson is a big loss. However, this might be where kind of like, what was it back with Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe? Something like that.
So. Yeah. You never want to see something like that. I mean, like it's a tough break. It's a tough break for like Gibson. That's his name.
Yeah.
It's a tough break for Gibson. It's not like he has like a hip injury or shoulder injury. Like this is something you could probably you can rehab. You can get back to hopefully 100%. Unfortunate timing, but this is an organization that values kind of this rebuild, and there's something to be said about like a veteran presence in net and helping that youth transition to youth be a little bit more seamless. Where it's like, hey, I rather have a veteran goalie than like a young goalie, just because I don't want something bad to happen with that young goalie and kill his confidence with like the team in front of him is also trying to figure it out. But like you said, this could be a moment.
Yeah, very true. I would expect to see John Gibson back. He has been discussed in trade rumors for what seems like years right now, because the Ducks are going on their 6th season of not making the playoffs. No question of John Gibson's talent. Just does he fit with their current timelines? Being 31 years old, is it kind of a waste of his time being on that rebuilding team? We'll talk about it all and much more coming out of Anaheim here very soon. But real quick, let's keep on these injuries. Drew Doughty, month to month after fracturing his ankle in a preseason game against the Vegas Golden Knights. This is a problem, Grant.
Ankle injuries are scary.
He averaged 25 minutes and 48 seconds of time on ice per game last season. That was the most. That's the most on the team. That's the second most in the NHL, only behind John Carlson for the Washington Capitals. He also had 50 points in 82 games as a defenseman. Not only does he eat up ice time on the blue line, he is a big part of the Kings offense, a team that struggles to score. And without him, I seriously question the success of this team this season and if they are making the playoffs in this Pacific Division.
It's crazy how good he still is.
Yes. Out of Montreal last night, you got Patrick Laine took a knee to knee.
Broke my heart.
Yep.
My heart.
Went to the dressing room, knee to knee, and the Canadiens' preseason game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yurov Slavkovsky also went to the dressing room. Brawls ensued, Grant. You got defenseman Jekaj and Slavkovsky went toe-to-toe in fights against the Toronto Maple Leafs. At one point, you had 5v5 on the ice in a huge scrum over this knee-to-knee injury. Again, explosive fireworks in the NHL preseason last night.
It'd be cool if it wasn't like caused by this sort of injury.
Yeah.
Like if this was just two teams that hated each other getting after in the preseason, which there's a little bit of that, but knowing what kind of spurred it was nothing short of heartbreaking. He's good, and I just hope this isn't like a super long-term year ending. I mean, hopefully maybe it's just a couple months, but it did not look good.
We hope to see him back. We do not have a timeline on either of those injuries out of Montreal last night. We'll keep you posted. Matt Boldy out of Minnesota injured this preseason. He's out week to week. He was the second leading scorer behind Kirill Kaprizov. Again, another team that relies heavily on Kaprizov, but also Matt Boldy to score goals in general. Not known for their offensive prowess. This is a big blow for a Minnesota team who's going to be certainly on the fringe of a wild card spot in that Central Division.
Every point matters. Getting out to a good start matters. This doesn't help.
Folks, we hope you're excited for NHL coverage. You're going to get an inside look. New series coming to Amazon Prime on October 4th called Face Off Inside the NHL, covering the likes of William Nylander, Gabriel Landeskog, Connor McDavid, and many, many more. I think there were 12 names total that they followed across the league for at least all of last season. Kind of give you an insight of their day-to-day, their training, injuries, being on the road, the team dynamics. It's going to be a lot of fun series to watch. And if you're a fan of just the league in general, this is going to be a real treat for all of us. I love that the NHL is getting this kind of national exposure.
I am a huge fan of this sort of thing. It seems like there's some real honest to God behind the scenes footage. It doesn't, early impressions of this are you're going to see, the real stuff. It's not going to be overly produced and kind of hit with that PR shine to make it, I don't know how sterile this is going to be. I think we're actually going to see some good emotion and some character of these guys. Trey, did you watch the old 24/7s back in the day on HBO?
Of course.
Those were amazing. And I think those were so important for kind of building hockey culture nationwide for maybe markets didn't have NHL teams or just didn't have, like, hockey wasn't really ingrained. Those were really good. Those were great content, and they just happened kind of before there was a constant commentary on these things. This was before Twitter. before TikTok and Instagram, social media, where, you think about something like Hard Knocks for the NFL. Hard Knocks has been around for a long time too, but when Hard Knocks has like a really good season or there's a really good moment, it generates eyeballs and impressions on things like Twitter and TikTok and views and things that kind of keep the conversation going. 24/7 kind of existed before that was a cultural phenomenon. I'm thinking that what Amazon's doing with this, I might generate some of that. And I know you're probably going into this. And Amazon's also putting a lot of money into live coverage of the league. So these are going to support one another as kind of like a content driven thing where it's like, okay, you're watching this behind the scenes. Hey, make sure you tune in on Thursdays when we have Coast to Coast and that sort of thing. And that's going to keep eyeballs engaged and on this for the league. I think it's a huge, huge step. And I think getting kind of in bed with Amazon, again, I've kind of said, there's pros and cons, all these kind of huge tech giants. Amazon, for their production value, what they're able to do, I think is a good partner for the game on a broadcast standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely, Grant. All well said. Yeah, and it hopefully this is like a Hard Knocks parallel and something that manifests itself into consistently, some kind of production every year that we can look for.
People love seeing just like hockey guys be themselves. That's the big thing with this is like just be yourself, guys.
Yeah, I mean they're so like relatable when you actually get to see them on a personal level and enjoy their friendships, just being on the road. It's all good stuff. Can't wait to watch it. All right, last bit of news, Grant. Heartwarming video this week out of Kenya, of all places, not known for its ice hockey. The country of Kenya will be playing in international hockey moving forward. They are officially recognized by the International Hockey Federation, basically meaning they are now eligible to be included in likes of the Olympics or other world tournaments like the IIHF tournament that we see every season. Awesome exposure to hockey. Africa, obviously not known as a continent for much hockey involvement or exposure at all. So really cool moment for these guys. I know that had to be a lot of work just to get to this.
I couldn't imagine what went into it.
But to get to this point on a continent, let alone this country of Kenya that has virtually zero resources invested in the sport of hockey, and now they're recognized on an international level. That's awesome.
Tip the cap, hats off to them. Give me that Amazon behind the scenes.
Yeah, how do I get that document? That's incredible. So really cool. If you've got time, go Google that video right now. Really heartwarming moment. They go crazy in their office when it's officially announced that Kenya is now international hockey program. All right,
on the table.
Grant, let's get to the primers. Let's go to California, baby. I got all the California teams, Grant. It's a California dream, California adventure. I was just there. Not to be confused. We're not, no copyright issues here. I'm not saying we're the park. It's just an adventure, in California. Don't Disney, please don't sue me. Okay. Starting in Los Angeles. The Kings finished third in the Pacific Division. GM is Rob Blake. Head coach Jim Hiller. Cap space $1.3 million. Notable moves off season. Jordan Spence signs a 2-year deal at $1.5 million. Quentin Byfield, big time, 5 years, $6.25 million. Warren Fogle, 3 years, $3.5 million. Joel Edmondson, 4 years, $3.85 million. They traded their 2025 second and 2024 fourth to Tampa Bay for Tanner Jeannot. He's been on the move recently. They traded PLD, that's Pierre-Luc Dubois, to the Washington Capitals for Darcy Kemper. We analyzed that trade extensively weeks back. Go check out those episodes when you get a chance. Key forwards, Kevin Fiala is 28, $7.88 million. Anze Kopitar, he's been around for decades, it seems like. He's 37, $7 million. Still probably good value there.
Got it. Yep.
Quentin Byfield, he's 22, just spoke to his new contract. Adrian Kempe, 28, $5.5 million. And prospect up-and-coming Arthur Kaliev, 23. He's on the last year of his entry-level contract. He is injured right now, but look for him to be one of the pieces that's more up-and-coming in a Kings team that could use some more up-and-coming, quite frankly. Key defenseman, and then we'll get a little bit of analysis going here, G. Drew Doughty, $34, $11 million, as we just spoke to, is now on the IR and month-to-month. Yikes. Will we see him this season? I hope so. I don't trust this situation at all. Ankle issues are nasty. Vladislav Gavrikov, 28, $5.88 million. Mikey Anderson is 25, $4 million. And Brant Clark, another up-and-coming piece that they're going to need to perform. He's 21, second year of his entry-level contract.
He'll get more playtime with Doughty.
That's
the guy. Clark's the guy.
Literal key to success, Grant. Clark steps up in Doughty's absence, is what I wrote verbatim. You read my mind. This team is going to struggle without Doughty. I hate to say it, but that is such an integral piece. Kopitar is fantastic. Unfortunately, I feel like this is a franchise that has leaned so heavily on the aging skill set of Doughty and Kopitar for the last years. And without one of them in the lineup, I think you're going to visually see that.
Yeah. This is, it's not end of an era. We're not there yet, but it's starting to pack up the bags and kind of downsize a little bit, Who knows how this season goes? I think is going to be very telling because they do have some young guys. I like Clark. I like Lafargue. Is that how you say his name? I like him a lot. He played 81 games last year, 12 goals, 11 assists. Like he's going to be another guy that's going to step up. I don't think this is like the best Kings teams that we've seen maybe 9 years ago, obviously, but like they're still going to be in it. They're going to be in it to win it. It's crazy how they have so much success without just they still just don't score goals. They don't do it, and they still win.
Yeah, they don't. So let's talk about that a little bit. So stats last year, they were third in goals against last season. So still played great defense, 2.56 goals against per game. They were 16th in goals for. No real changes to this offensive core. Again, that goals against, though, that is in large part due to the presence of Drew Doughty. He's playing almost half the game with that 25 minutes time on ice. And I think that's going to manifest itself. I do. The other piece here, though, I'll give them a bit of opportunity here. We're talking about a division, as we've already discussed, that is wide open. I mean, outside of the Edmonton Oilers, this could go a number of different directions. There is no reason that any of these teams couldn't make the playoffs. Maybe outside of the San Jose Sharks, we'll get to them. But yeah, man, I don't know. This division is lucrative with opportunity, Grant.
Yeah, I mean they've made the playoffs the last 3 years. Haven't gotten terribly far, but they're there. They're a team that it's tough to get points against. So.
Well, here's how I see this playing out. They finished third last season without Doughty, it being month to month. I don't see a very hot start occurring. I think they're going to be battling for another wild card spot in the Pacific. I've got them finishing fifth. Obviously, could be maybe a fourth, but certainly will be in that wild card battle again. Fifth is technically good enough for a playoff spot, wild card position. That's if the Central dumps those two wild card spots and the Pacific grabs them. I don't foresee that happening.
I don't see that happening. I think you got to be top three.
Yeah, so
to get it, and they might.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Any differences there?
No, I'm with you. I think the expectation. We'll see how important Doughty was, which I think we're all on the same page. It's very important, but you don't like to see this. But we're gonna have to see some new blood and LA step up.
All right, Grant, let's drive north. Let's go to San Jose. Let it be known, we're probably going to a Sharks game this season. We're less than a 2-hour drive, so looking forward to that. They finish 8th in the Pacific Division. GM Mike Greer, head coach Ryan Warsofsky, cap space, working with $10 million. Notable moves this offseason. They traded Magnus Krona, David Enstrom, and a 2025 first-round pick for Yaroslav Askarov from the Predators. We talked about this from the Preds' perspective. I really like this deal from the Sharks' perspective. I think you got a great answer in the crease now for years to come at a great price. Traded Ty Emberson to Edmonton Oilers for Cody Ceci and a draft pick in return, a 2025 third. They signed Macklin Celebrini to his ELC. Great job. Ty Dellandrea comes over from Dallas, 2 years by $1.3 million. Alex Wenberg 2 years by $5 million.
Our guy.
Didn't pan out maybe as well as New York hoped in the playoff run. So no longer with the blue shirts. Now he's on the West Coast. Tyler Toffoli, really glad to see some term here. He's been bounced around between Calgary, Montreal, and Winnipeg the last couple of seasons. Short amount of time, a lot of moving. He got a 4-year deal, $6 million. Luke Kunin, loved this kid. Saw him play in Nashville as well. Brings a lot of energy. Was a part of the USA development program. Was on that USA junior team years back. 1-year deal, $2.75 million. I think he's got a lot to offer. Will Smith signed his ELC coming over from Boston College, claimed, and then they continue to claim Barclay Goodrow, also from the New York Rangers, and he went on to sign a $3.46 million deal. He's 31. They kind of cornered the Boston college market, Grant, between Will Smith and Celebrini. So
you see that on paper. It's kind of interesting.
I think that's going to work out for him. I think that's going to work out.
That's not a bad pipeline.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the forwards here. Logan Couture is 35. He's on an $8 million deal. However, he is on the IR. He only played 6 games last season. He is the captain of this team. Not the best updates. So at the end of last season, he told the media his plan was to start skating in July, trying to come back from this groin injury that, again, only saw him play in 6 games last season. He has not met that timeline. He has not even begun skating yet. He is on the IR for the start of the season with no foresight on when he will return. So remains to be seen on if he returns at all. Hopefully he does. He obviously is a big piece and leadership role on a very young and promising team. You know, obviously not expecting a playoff berth, but, years down the road, absolutely. Tyler Toffoli, we talked about, he's 32, got a 4-year extension. Mikael Granlund will be their first-line center. He's 32, $5 million. Winberg is 30. Barclay Goodrow is 31. Fabian Zetterlund is 25, $1.45 million. Dude can score some goals. And then you've got Celebrini, Will Smith, and Will Eklund, all on those entry-level contracts. Look for them to mature and grow and be put in all sorts of adversity-filled situations as they grow into the NHL. I think there's no question the ceiling for this team is extremely high, just not this season.
Long term, yeah. I think there's assets here that you can look at and say, we can build around these guys if they, develop correctly. But it's not easy. It's not real life isn't a video game. You can't just run these guys out here and, their overall increase. I mean, you have to be put in like good positions and have the right opportunity and good coaching. And, this is an organization that had a really great run of success. And I don't know if they really get the full credit they might have deserved, because they were really bad for a long time and then got just one of the best teams in the West, but they fell short of ever getting the cup. That I think sometimes maybe outside of just how funny Brett Burns and Joe Thornton looked, we kind of forget just how actually good they were. And now it's been a good amount of seasons here, since the COVID season, they haven't really been on the radar. And I don't think that's going to change this year, but maybe in the future, as we kind of look at the haves and have-nots of the Pacific Division, maybe they start kind of popping up there a little bit as some of the other teams drop.
Those mid-2000s Sharks team, when you had Marleau and Pavelski and Thornton, and then even young Couture and Tomas Hertl came in, that was probably one of the best underperforming teams of all time. I mean, terrifying to play against. They were so talented.
Yeah, and full disclosure, there was a time where the Jackets were in the West, and I saw a lot of the Sharks. They weren't in the same division, but there was a team I kind of watched a lot, and then the Jackets made the move, obviously, and life goes on and changes, and you see kind of less and less of them aside from the playoffs, but they were a force. And it's just kind of the way the league set up is that you can't be making the conference finals forever, you have to regress. But
okay, Grant, this blue line, Probably leaves a little bit to be desired this season. You got Mark-Edward Vlasic taking the reins. He's 37, $7 million. Jake Wallman is 28, $3.4 million. Mario Ferraro is 26, $3.25 million. And then Cody Ceci is 30. We talked about his deal coming over from the Edmonton Oilers. So certainly they're probably letting up some goals this season. But again, growing into their own with all these super promising entry-level contracts with their highly touted draft picks. No guarantee that they pan out, but I think you could put your money on it that they probably will. Their keys to success, they were 31st in goals per game last season. So a pretty pitiful offense, 2.17 goals for. They were 32nd in goals against with 3.98. So scoring almost 2 goals a game and letting up almost 4 goals a game. That is a bad season. Looking to improve on those numbers. And then we talked about the Couture situation. His presence is going to dictate a lot of the team's success. But again, focusing on this team's success for this season seems kind of misguided. I think the big focus should just be on the growth and development of these young players and them establishing themselves in the league. So see how it goes.
Yeah, there's a couple of young guys I'll have my eye on.
For sure. Grant, my prediction, though, I've got them finishing 7th. I think there is another team that is going to have a very bad season, and it's going to result in a lot of assets being moved before the trade deadline, maybe some assets who've got some bad contracts. I don't want to ruin it. We'll talk about them next weekend. But right now, I've got the Sharks in 7th place. Do you disagree?
I think they will be last again.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm not rooting for that. I'm not as, I guess I'm not as down as with the other teams yet.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
kind of my thing.
sounds good. All right, let's drive back down south again. Grant, this is my dark horse. This is my super secret.
We've been sitting on this.
I've kept this close to the vest.
Now.
Yeah, close to the vest for 3 months, and now I'm going to reveal it. I think the Ducks maybe grab a wild. I can't even say it. I think they're going to grab. I'm like scared to put it out there. I think they grab a wild card spot in the Pacific Division.
I want to be on board with you so bad on that, but I can't do it.
Okay, well,
mostly because I think the Central is just so stacked. I don't think there's going to be a wild card spot, but that's just me.
Yeah, and that could absolutely happen for sure. Yeah. So the Ducks finished 7th in the Pacific. Their GM is Pat Verbeek. He's done a phenomenal job stacking this team for years to come. I think just like the Sharks, we're going to see that play out. A team with a very high ceiling, current talent level, maybe not as high as other teams, but again, in the Pacific Division, there's no reason why a team like this couldn't just manifest itself and grab one of these spots. And I made this point last week. Every single year, there's one team that jumps up. Right now, Vancouver Canucks are a known quantity. The beginning of last season, we did not know that. They were coming off a horrible season and shocked everybody. This happens every single year. There's always one team that surprises everyone. And I think this is where we're going to see it. Head coach is Greg Conan. Here's an asset they do have. They have $21 million in cap space. We're going to talk about why that's important here very shortly. Let's talk about their moves. Jackson Lacombe signs a 2-year, $900,000 deal. I don't normally put in deals under $1 million, but this has been a prospect in the defensive depth chart for the Ducks for a long time. Steps up to
himself.
Yeah, I think he proves himself this season and steps up and grabs probably a third pairing role at a minimum this season and shows that he's got what it takes. They signed their draft pick, Beckett Sinecki. He's on his ELC. They traded a 2025 fourth and Gage Alexander to Detroit Red Wings for Robbie Fabry. We'll see what he's got left in the tank. Traded a 2026 fourth rounder to the Seattle Kraken for Brian Dumoulin. And they signed Isaac Lundstrom to a 1-year, $1.5 million deal. No question, I was looking at this. Pat Verbeek is not afraid to let restricted free agents walk. He did the same with Sonny Milano, previous jacket there, Grant. So the fact that this RFA got a deal.
Free Sonny, dude.
Yeah, he got a deal speaks a lot of volumes as to how Pat Verbeek views him. This was a prove-it deal. 1 year, let's get it done, Isaac.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of this guy. And then Cutter Gauthier signs his entry-level contract with the Ducks, came over in that maybe controversial trade from the Philadelphia Flyers last season.
Yeah.
Key forwards for the old Ducks. Troy Terry, 27 years old, $7 million. Got to know him very well with the DU Pios. Great guy.
Your guy, yeah.
Alex Killorn, 35, $6.25 million. Stalwart leadership there. Trevor Zegras, 23, $5.75 million deal. This is a question mark. We'll talk about that in a second. Ryan Strome is 31, $5 million. Frank Vetrano is 30, $3.65 million. Grant, he had 37 goals last season. Frank Vetrano. That's pretty good. Then you got Cutter Gauthier, Leo Carlson, and Mason McTavish all on their ELC. So similar.
And these young guys, I think, are going to play a lot. I think that's kind of what, I don't want to get too ahead of you here, but like, I think that's what kind of separates the Ducks from a lot of these kind of rebuilding teams is like, these guys get minutes.
Yes.
Like they're going to see the ice a lot. That is kind of the plan.
I also, the other reason I'm higher on this team this year is I like who they're surrounded by. Like Ryan Strome, I feel is a very underrated player. Alex Killorn came from a Stanley Cup pedigree. Frank Vetrano clearly was a fourth liner at one point, and now putting up 37 goals. Yeah, I like who surrounds and molds these younger players, and I think that's gonna reap benefits for the Ducks. Let's talk about their blue line. Cam Fowler's 32, $6.5 million. Radko Gudas, just named captain, 34, $4 million. Brian Dumoulin, we talked about. I love this deal from the Ducks' perspective. 33, $3.15 million. And then two ELCs, Pavel Matyukov, a highly rated prospect. And then this is the one I'm looking at, Grant. Olin Zellweger. This kid is an athlete. Puck-moving offensive defenseman. I think that he establishes himself and has a big breakout season.
I'm trying to balance him and Lacombe. Because, like, Lacombe's going to play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Fowler, Matincha. Okay.
So keys to success here. We talked about the John Gibson injury. He will return up to 2 months into the season. I don't know if it'll go that far. I don't know how quickly that procedure can recover. But you have an answer in Lucas Dostal, like we talked about, as your backup. This is a guy who can take the reins in a starting position. Vetrano, Brock McGann, and Robbie Fabry are all on their last year of those contracts before they're unrestricted free agents. Maybe you hang on to Vetrano, try to extend him because he has found this revolution, this newfound success in his career. Maybe you try to extend him with a bigger veteran role on this Ducks team that's looking to capitalize on these young pieces for years to come. Trevor Zegras, he has been trade rumored for seems like the past 2 seasons. That's somebody who could yield a massive return if they chose to move on. Rumor has it.
Or you keep him.
Or you keep him. Yeah, there's no guarantee. We know that he's been involved. Does Pat Verbeek value him? Does he not? I know they want to see more out of the young man. So we'll see how that plays out. The biggest thing here, though, Grant, they've got $21 million in cap space with no big contracts to sign. So unless they keep like a Vetrano, obviously we'll have to pay him a little bit more. But my thing is, they've got so much money to do with what they want. That's why I already like the roster as it is, and I feel that they're only going to add to it because they've got the freedom to do so. And because of that, I think they start with a good roster in October, and I think they end the season with an even better roster because of moves that they're going to make. Be it trade Vetrano or Zegras or keep them, add other pieces. I don't know, but they will be better, and that's why I think they finished 4th place in the Pacific.
I think that's a very plausible scenario, 4th, and kind of where they're at. We didn't talk much about them, but like Leo Carlson, like step up. Or I don't mean step up like, hey, you got to do this. I'm saying like it's his time to shine now, and we remember he was 2nd overall pick, and I'm excited to kind of see what this young team can accomplish. I want to see just like who these guys are at the NHL level. And what I kind of said earlier, these young guys are going to play. I think like Leo will probably be like their first line guy. And then maybe the minutes are more evenly split between 1 and 2, but he's going to be, he's a guy with extensive professional experience. That was like his kind of a asset coming out of the draft, which was, he's used to playing against adults. It's not like a junior or college level, but if they got something with him, then this whole rebuilding project is justified.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, Grant. Outside of the Avs, obviously, my team, this is probably the team I'm most excited just to watch from an entertainment perspective, is I think they're going to be explosive, and I think they're going to be in a lot of fun games. So looking forward to watching them, and I'll have my eye on them. They're my Boise State of this season. I've really enjoyed watching Boise State college football this year. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on the Anaheim Ducks.
I'm kind of with you there. I'm hopefully I'll have a team that I watch myself separate, so we're covering all our bases. But you make a very strong Shark Tank pitch to care about the Anaheim Ducks. Did you see the clips of them in the new uniforms against the Kings with their new uniforms?
Yes, they look great.
Very cool.
Yes.
Very cool.
Great.
Hockey's in a great spot.
Great spot. Great logo. They crushed it.
Yeah.
All right. You ready for the hard hats?
I'm ready.
The hard hats of the week are sponsored by Leroy's Bar. Located in the heart of Worcester, Ohio, Leroy's establishment has provided cheap pitchers and a safe haven for all of the Fighting Scots of Worcester since 1969. Make your reservations today. Grant, my hard hat is simple. It's very difficult to be successful in hockey, let alone put hockey on the map in a country and continent that has virtually zero hockey footprint. The country of Kenya, now recognized on an international level, and will be able to battle on the world stage for years to come. Awesome. Again, go look at that video. Awesome reaction to them finding out that they are now a part of the IIHF. Will we see Olympic hockey in Africa? I don't know. I'm here for it, though. Kenya hockey program gets my hard hat.
We will see them in some aspects on the world stage. That's kind of the infrastructure necessary to build this. Very well said, Trent. I tough to follow that, but I'm going to keep it local here, like I do with the hard hats. I'm going to go with New Jacket. Sean Monahan has had a phenomenal preseason. We're talking about how this preseason just feels a little different in Columbus. It definitely feels very different right now, and most everything's going to feel different for a long time. But Sean has had a great preseason, put the puck in the net pretty consistently. Spoke some good words about Johnny recently, about just, going out there and playing how Johnny would, and his lockers next to, his and next to Johnny's. And, I'm keeping expectations low and manageable. Sometimes hockey's not even about hockey on the ice, but if he has a good season, man, it's going to be fun to watch. I think it's going to help the young guys around him. And, it can be really positive. His success could help a lot of people and a lot of things. So off to a great start.
Saw that video of him coming into the locker room for the first time, and he saw Johnny's jersey hung up next to his locker. Very tough moment for him. Saw the interview right after that. Yeah, this guy is the display of strength in Columbus right now, and really excited to watch that first game of the season.
Preseason's been pretty good so far.
Yeah. Well, and Grant, I had a thought this week. I wanted to leave you with this. We talk about teams, like we do all these preseason primers and predictions and whatnot. But again, like there's always teams that are Cinderella stories that shock us. I was driving in my car thinking, there's no reason to sit here and think that Columbus is going to come up and take a wild card spot. There's not. But why not? Also, it's hockey, like what honestly, what is to stop them?
I will say the years that the Jackets have kind of had a lot of success, and the trends that have started it have come out of nowhere. I think specifically like the 2013, 2014 year. Trent, you'll remember this, is the Jackets faced the Pens in the first round, and they won on a last second.
Never forget
from Dubinsky. Yeah, we watched this game together, folks. That year kind of sort of came out of nowhere a little bit. And the first year, the year we won like 16 straight with Torts, that also a little bit out of nowhere. Didn't really know how good the team was going to be. You know, these things just kind of seem inevitable after the fact. So I'm with you. Like, if they're going to be on the ice, I'm going to root for them. I want them to win. I'm kind of past the point of tanking for draft picks, not because I don't think that's important, but just because I think that the guys on the ice right now are good enough to, we want to see some build. So yeah, man, if Ventelli can just score 30 goals, we might be up there. That might just be enough to result in like competing for a wild card. If Zach Werenski's healthy for an entire season, if the goalies can have collectively a better run of it, then yeah, we're going to be talking about this team differently than we have the past 2 years.
Fans in the United States, fans across the globe, if you're into passionate hockey, maybe some Cinderella stories, some up-and-coming teams, blue-collar mentality, we are the podcast for you. Reach out, hardhacky1 @gmail.com. Comment on Facebook, comment on Twitter, and we'll get back to you with our stock tips, and you give us yours in return. Maybe we'll have you on the show. We'll at least give you a shout-out at a bare minimum. As always, we love you guys. We can't wait for next weekend when we wrap up primers for the year. That's weird to say. We're going to be finishing up with the Vancouver Canucks, the Edmonton Oilers, and the Calgary Flames. Little Canadian splash there for you. And that'll be the start of the season. It's here. It's official. Also, big announcement. We're going to video, baby. We got video episodes coming your way very shortly. Stay tuned for that. Let's get up for
excited
the
about
start of the season.
Yep. We're hopefully we're going to be able to do a lot of fun stuff with that. And kind of, it's not a coincidence that all this coming together right before the season starts. So if you've been with us through this, thank you. Your support's incredibly important. It has developed, it's helped us develop into hopefully what we think is going to be even more polished and exciting product come season.
It's almost like we had a plan the whole time. Stay tuned. We love you. Let's go get it.